Welcome, everybody. If you're here, it means that you're serious about looking at an opportunity to make money from home, to work for yourself. This is something that I'm very excited about. I've got Randy here today. He's already helped hundreds of people make really good livings with providing them with that freedom, making anywhere from 100K to 300K. Randy, thanks for being here. Appreciate your time. So let's start with the really big question. What is this? And who exactly is this for, this opportunity?
Hey, Adam, I appreciate it. Yeah, I would say this is for anybody that is, wanting to be an entrepreneur, somebody who wants to take control of their own life, take control of their own destiny, maybe somebody that they know they have more in them and they're in a situation right now where they're building somebody else's dream, right? I saw a recent video and it said, imagine if your life was a video and people are watching this happen right now. What would they be screaming out to the screen to tell you to do? Are they telling you to quit your job and, do something different, take control of your destiny? So it's those people that they know they have more in them and they want the freedom and the flexibility to build their own empire. What is this? This is essentially having your own insurance agency. And a lot of people, they look at it, and I'll never forget, Tom Brady, when they interviewed him, and he was like, oh my gosh, I was just crying so much. When I finally got drafted in the 6th round, I thought I was going to have to sell insurance. And it was a pretty funny moment for him to be able to say that. But it is for people that you have to love to talk to people, right? You have to want to add value in the lives of other people, knowing that when you put your head down on the pillow at night, that you're making a difference. But there are more millionaires that are made in insurance and specifically in sales than almost any other industry that there is. And when you look at it, whether you're a CEO, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you are selling, whether you're selling an idea. But sales, when you break it down, the root word of that means to serve people. It's service. And so the mindset of that is there. And as I go back in time, I just turned 50 this last year. And I look at, man, if I would have known what I know now, being able to help somebody at one time and be able to benefit from that for as long as they're a client, for as long as they're a member in that, and I'm able to get paid over and over and over again, without any hesitation, that's what I would have done. And it is helping seniors with health insurance, Medicare. And Adam, there are over 10,000 seniors turning 65 every day until 2035. You have the baby boomers that are coming through. And so from an opportunity standpoint, the road is just paved with gold for those that want to jump in and take that opportunity.
Well, that sounds really cool. So when you say they have to like talking to people, that brings up something from my standpoint. I found that for me, I don't necessarily like talking to people about just, chit chat. And unless they're a close friend of mine, I'm not great at just, striking up conversation. However, if it's something that I feel like can really help somebody, then it's easy for me to talk about. And so those are things that I'm passionate about. So why don't you elaborate when you say, because I think that might give people like me a little bit of a reservation, like, wait a minute, you have to like talking to people. Tell us a little bit about really what you'd be talking to them about. I know it's insurance based. You brought up, how many people are hitting that age range, but this is something where you're truly, first of all, you're connecting with them directly. You're not having to search them out and find them, right?
Yeah, I would say that is the difference, right? In my career, all the businesses that I've owned, it really comes down to your leads, right? And I would say, multiple things on that. It's the quality of the lead, the quantity of the leads, and the consistency of those. I might also add in there the cost of those leads. As I think about it, one of my favorite infomercials of all time is the P90X. And the reason I loved it is because to me, it was authentic. It was true. They said, hey, this will be the hardest thing that you've ever done. But if you do this after the course of 90 days, here are the results. And Adam, we have a proven system. Literally, when I told you it was hundreds of people, it's thousands of people that I have been involved with helping make over $100, $200, $300, $400,000 a year if they're willing to put in the effort. We do all the training. We give you the tools, the mentorship, everything from cradle to grave on how to be successful. Again, it's the leads. I will say in any business, it is going to come down to the leads. without any hesitation. Now, prior to that, there are several steps that have to transpire that somebody has to go through to be able to do that, right? You've got to
Sure.
study for the exam. You've got to pass your licensing exam. And again, you only have to have 70%, but you have to get that knowledge base. And then beyond that, there is an immense amount of education that is required for somebody to be able to understand, well, what does this mean? What does this mean with United Healthcare and Humana and Aetna and all of the different carriers out there? And again, the beautiful thing is we have taught hundreds and thousands of individuals on exactly how to do that. So we have the training and the tools to give them the skill set, to provide that skill set. You can truly help people and you can monetize that data and you can generate revenue, not just one time. Again, Adam, this is the part I think that separates it from almost anything else. There's a lot of very high salespeople, recently in the solar, the door to door, where they're selling those solar panels at $70,000 to put them on their house and all the wonderful things there. And that salesperson is probably making $15,000 when they make that sale. And again, it's different where they're out there pounding the pavement and they're doing the summer jobs and all those fun things. It's not that, but imagine if somebody could sell solar panels and they get paid every single month that the homeowner is using the solar panels. With insurance, when you help somebody and they stay with you, you're getting that reoccurring revenue. You're building your own residual base. And so it stacks. And I've just never seen anything like it. And so, being able to help other people do this and change their life, it's the real deal.
Okay. So it's not like it's something necessarily new. Of course, it's been around forever. It's the concept of having the complete system in place. It's the training, the education, the support that a lot of people like me would need, right? It's not having to figure anything out for yourself. You're basically saying everything, all the components are there to make something successful. So is this something, can anyone really do it? Or is there certain requirements?
I'm careful on that, right? Like I'm a big believer, as you can see, believe it. I'm a big believer in people can get into that top 80, that top 20%, right? If they're putting forth the time, the effort and the energy to do that, but again, if there are people that they do not like talking to people and, from that standpoint, I would say, yeah, that's a no for them, right? If you do not like communicating with people, you probably need to be a programmer. You need to do a labor job, something like that, where you're not interacting with people. But if you genuinely like helping people in your personality, then really, even if you've never had sales experience, we can help you with that. I mean, again, the difference is specifically on the healthcare side of it, Medicare is an entitlement. So if somebody has worked 10 years, then it is something that is provided for them. So the difference would be if, say, somebody were selling life insurance, you have to get their account number, their routing number, and it's a fee that they have to pay every month. With Medicare Advantage plans, you're not collecting any of that information. Literally anybody, if you want to be full-time, if you want to be part-time, younger kids, I would say 18 to 30 seem to do really, really well. They're very, very coachable. They're very teachable. They're hungry. I would say anybody that is hungry for a change, whether they want to make, even if they want to part-time, make $30,000 a year, $50,000 a year, remember that it stacks. So the efforts that you do that 1 year are going to now continue to receive payment on those same clients. And so it just grows and grows.
That's interesting that you hit on something that I find to be make it less of a, as far as like the guards that I have, as far as the fear, you mentioned something about this is something that people are entitled to. So rather than more of the sales side, it's just simply making them aware. Is that kind of accurate? Because a lot of people are fairly uneducated about that. So they've responded to something.
So I would say within the first 30 seconds to 2 minutes of a call, it is your ability to connect with people. If you are at a peak state and in your heart, you truly want to help these people, they can feel it, right? So a lot of times we're saying like, hey, when you're on the phone, you need to smile. They can't see you, but they can feel you, that frequency, the energy. And so really, I would say a lot of that skill set is being able to win them over. Why does anybody buy anything? It's because they like you, right? Whatever it is. And so it's your ability to be able to help them to know that you've got their back, you're a fiduciary, you're there to help them. And then we're going into a needs analysis. And so we've got, a full system that goes through as you're gathering that information. And as you're gathering that information, their zip code, their doctors, the prescriptions that they're on, it will tell you all of the plans that are available in their zip code. And you're essentially finding, based on the needs that they have, that they want, what is available to them. And you're able to make those recommendations on whether it's going to be better for them or not. And if it's not, then you tell them, hey, Adam, you're already in the best plan in your area. You need to stay on that plan, right? We always do what's right for the member. And it's going to be like, well, I wasn't expecting this. That's amazing. And then you can work on referrals and things from that. But yeah, it's again, in that first 2 minutes, there is a skill set in being able to connect with them, for them to feel your heart and to know, and for them to believe that you are there to help them.
Which I imagine is relatively realistic for most people once they're trained, right? Once you learn that you're really helping somebody, I imagine that that's a lot easier, and you've been given the training that this system provides, I'm assuming, correct?
100%. Once they go through our education and they learn all of the things that are out there and that are available, again, and it varies zip code to zip code, but once you understand that and you learn that, now you can have the confidence to know, okay, as I go through this, I am putting them in a better position to where they were before.
Okay. So I want to touch up on a little bit of the, what kind of money people are making. We already referenced the 100 to 300K. I imagine that applies to people that are doing it full time. Kind of give a range of, and you also talked about the flexibility. So I guess my question is two-part. Let's talk about kind of some of your averages with the people you bring into the system and you train them, right? Let's give an average of someone that's going full time. Let's talk about someone that's more examples. I mean, I know you probably don't have it dialed down to the penny, but examples of people that are doing it part-time as well.
That's a great question. For full-time, anybody, if they don't make, and this may sound a little bit different, right? But it's true, because of the system, the proven system that we have, if they don't make over 100,000 the first year, within the first 12 months, they're not following anything that we're doing. They're definitely not working full-time. It's very predictable. So really, it does equate to the amount of time, effort, and energy that somebody puts into it. And if you don't put the time into it, you're not going to get the results. For somebody to be able to make 100,000 their first year, absolutely. And then again, remember that it stacks, right? For all of those people that stay active. And so then you look at that and you say, okay, if they're going to do this part-time, what is that? It really is up to them. We have some people during Medicare, you have the annual enrollment period, which goes from October 15th to December 7th. During that time period, agents are literally putting in 12, 13, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they're making almost 50% of their income during that time. We have some agency owners, that's the only time of the year they work, right? Now, you also have January through the end of March that is open enrollment. And so, individuals will work 40, 50, some 60 hours a week during that time, and they absolutely crush it and they make phenomenal income. And so you have some people that are only working AEP and OEP, and they take the rest of that year off. They'll go to Alaska, they'll go on cruises, they'll spend time with family, whatever they want to do. We have other people that will work year round. And so it really is up to, what do they want to do? How do they want to, utilize that? The last 3 weeks of December it's a blackout period. And so it forces people to take time off, and it really comes at a great time of the year. People want to take that time off, especially after putting in all of that time, effort, and energy during AEP, to be able to have the 3 weeks off, kind of recharge the batteries, and then come back in January 2nd.
All right, cool. So then, all right, that brings up a couple other questions. So are people, you talk about these, what some people are doing, but it's really everyone's choice. Like, are people really working for themselves? This isn't a true job. It's independent, meaning you're setting people up as independent, like you said, agency owners, right? So they're working for themselves technically, even though they're utilizing your system, they're technically working for themselves. So I want to make sure I'm clear on that. And then also, can you elaborate on the flexibility, meaning knowing that they're working for someone else, like what's required to be able to plug into the system? So let's talk a little bit about, let's just say that someone's out remote.
Because you are an independent agency owner, it's your business, right? And so you're receiving your income directly from the carriers, from these companies that have been around for over 100 years, United Healthcare, Humana, Anthem, Aetna, Cigna, WellCare, massive companies. Let's see, United Healthcare, the fourth largest company in the nation. WellCare is owned by Centene, the 26th largest company in the nation. And so again, these are very well established. Insurance, it's not sexy, right? It's not the Ferrari, it's not the sports car, but guess what? It's something that everybody needs. And I'm going to go back to the point of, from an opportunity standpoint, 10,000 seniors turning 65 every day until 2035. It's an underserved community. They need the help. They're going to be signing up for health insurance. And it really is just understanding that.
Okay. Well, thanks for clarifying on that part. That seems, again, quite amazing that you can have that level of flexibility. But then the other thing that piques my interest level on is dabbling and having companies myself, like at least entity structures, right? Does this give someone the freedom to be set up as a real company? Like, are you kind of giving advice or getting people connected to be able, I'm assuming that their compensation's now coming in the form of 1099, independent income. So they're able then to get an entity that income comes into. And so they're truly self-employed, which is going to give them access to quite a bit of tax deductions as well, right? Which should be important for some, because especially if they're supplementing their income, they could utilize those deductions to offset the new income and their existing income. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And you bring up a very good point. So as I go back to when you asked, who is this for? I could say anybody who has read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and loved it. Anybody who read, Robert Kiyosaki's book, Cash Flow Quadrant, and loved it. Why? Because as an independent agency owner, not only do we give you the tools, the training, the education, the knowledge, the skill set to be able to succeed, but we also help you with the legal entity structure. And for everybody, each individual, it could be a limited liability company. It could be an S corporation, but we help you work with those right professionals that specialize in this. And then the personal and business tax returns. As an independent agency owner, when you're looking at the cash flow quadrant that Robert Kiyosaki put together, employees are taxed at the highest level. You earn your income, taxes are removed, and then you receive your paycheck, right? As a business owner, you're getting paid as an LLC, and then you're able to expense legally all of the expenses in your business. Well, what is that? Well, that's why you're working with a CPA firm that is going to help you pay the legal minimum in taxes. So your home office, your computer, your cell phone, your vehicle, food and entertainment, parts of that, travel. Travel is a huge one. I'm the son of a CPA, and I remember at the dinner table, my dad, one of his clients was a school teacher, and they were going to Europe. With her husband, she was going to be traveling all around. And he said, okay, so what you're going to do is make sure you take pictures, put together, this is back, before we had all the fancy technology that we have today. Take pictures, put together a scrapbook so that when you come back, you can show the kids, all the trip, and here's what you did in all these places. And now, because that's educational purposes, we'll help you expense 100% of your trip. And so if you look at somebody that say makes $150,000 or $200,000 a year, if you have legal business expenses of $50,000 to $100,000 a year, essentially your taxable income is reduced by that amount. And so again, in the cash flow quadrant, as a business owner and an investor, you're at that highest level, right? You're getting taxed at the very lowest percentage. You go back, whether you like Trump or you don't like him, Dave Chappelle said what made him famous is when Hillary Clinton was said, did you really not pay those taxes? And he goes, of course I didn't pay those taxes. And he goes, and that makes me smart. And neither did any of her donors. And Dave Chappelle, a star was born, right? And so as a business owner, there are different tax codes and implications for a business owner that allow you to keep more of your hard-earned money.
So yeah, everything that you've brought up, the whole system, everything sounds amazing, but I'm sure that other people are wondering the same thing that I'm about to ask next, which is, there's got to be some type of a cost associated to this. I'm guessing that it's relatively significant. Anytime there's, something legitimate, there's always a cost to that. So let's touch on what the cost is, and then if you can elaborate on also what you're going to do to help people cover that cost, right? That's something that I definitely have experience in, but I'd like to hear from your side, what is the cost? Is there a cost? Of course, most people will be wondering the same thing. So why don't you touch on that if you don't mind?
Yeah. Excellent question. Absolutely. Yes, there is a cost, right? I mean, when you look at a proven system, and from my perspective, this is the best opportunity that is out there. I think there's a lot of people that would love to own a Chick-fil-A. Why? Because the average income for a Chick-fil-A owner is over $600,000 a year. Well, the startup cost for that is almost $2.5 million. Another franchise, Jimmy John's, the average Jimmy John's, they're netting $250,000 a year in income. Well, the start to even open a Jimmy John's franchise, depending on your location, is between $400,000 and $500,000. Not very many people have that type of income. So when it comes to being an agency owner, you're going to have to buy a study course for the material. We have a discount code, so you're $25, $30 for that. Then you have to actually go in and take the license. The exam is different state to state, but call it around $100. Then from that, you have to take AHIP, which is required by CMS for Medicare. That's $175. We have a discount code, so that's reduced down to $125. Then it's how many states do you want to be licensed in? More so than that, right? And so again, it's yes, there is a cost, right? This is not a get rich quick scheme. This is not something that is too good to be true, right? You have to go through and get proper licensing, and now as a fiduciary, and then beyond that, the training and the tools and the support, there is a cost associated with that, but we help you with that. Again, we have it from cradle to grave, and how to get started, how to get educated, how to learn, how to have that confidence to be able to succeed, and then to be able to plug into the system to be able to make that happen. And, I don't want to say this too largely, but it's like, make your dreams come true.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like there's some variables in that too, like depending on how someone wants to get set up. But yeah, it's good to know. I think it's always wise to be upfront with everybody. Transparency is key, but there's going to be some variables on the exact amount of total cost. Number one. Number two, obviously there's value. It takes money to make money. So you're investing into something that's yours. That's the other cool part that I'm hearing. It's something that you're investing into for you. So just like the guy that borrowed money from grandma, that seemed like the path for him. In most cases, again, this is where some of my background comes in. There's a lot of different options that can be explored when it comes to accessing capital, but it sounds like when they book their call with the advisor, they'll help walk them through that side of it and help them kind of determine, put a pen to paper, figure out what roughly total investment amounts would be, but then also more importantly, give everyone the guidance on how to use other people's money or how to get creative, basically. Because anytime that someone allows themselves to think, I can't do that right now, in the cases that you brought up with the franchises, that's legitimate. There are several people that can't do that, right? But I'm imagining the costs are relatively low enough where, for the most part, almost anyone can do it.
Absolutely. Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Appreciate the transparency there. Sounds like everything's here. Everything's complete. Once again, next step is really to book the call with an advisor, connect with that person one-on-one. Don't be hesitant. Like I've mentioned before, I'm not the greatest at just random chit chat, but if it's something I'm passionate about, if I know I'm helping somebody, I'm game to talk about it pretty much probably until your ear falls off. Right. So if your personality is like me, where you're kind of somewhat of an introvert, but then you'll willingly talk about something that you're passionate about, seems like ultimately this can be a great fit for even people like me. Now, as far as like closing thoughts, leading into someone booking the call with an advisor, what would be kind of your closing thoughts on that before they take that next step?
Yeah, listen, I would say you don't know what you don't know. And if there are things that you've heard here before and you're like, I know this is not for me, don't schedule the call. It's like we really truly only want to help people that want to help themselves. But if something that you've heard today catches your attention and you're like, I think this could be something that would be for me, I would say book the appointment. That's the only way you're going to know, and to go through that, to be able to truly understand and get all of your questions answered so that you can understand, like, is this something that I can be successful with?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It usually is. So, all right, everyone, take the next step. Randy, I've appreciated the time. Everybody have a great day.
All right. God bless.